So I think doing fewer things is where people will have the hardest time, because you have to say no earlier than I'm so stressed out. Like if I say yes to this, I won't be able to sleep. So that you have to start saying no as much as you can earlier. Sometimes I like to say we have to emulate the courage of the quiet quitter. Try to quietly quit within the context of your ordinary work, but don't go, to 0%. Go to 80%. What would it look like to cut back maybe 75%? So he suggests try to cut back as much as you can on whatever is not absolutely required. Start saying no much earlier. Develop a quota system. Like there are this many. I don't know. In his life, it's doing reviewing articles. It's part of the peer review process that you need experts to review other people's articles. And he says, okay, he has a certain number of those he'll do per semester. And once he's reached that quota, he says to everyone, I love doing this reviewing, but I've reached my quota for this semester. And he says, no one comes back and argues with you about your quota. So you can say, look, I love doing these kind of activities. I love helping out in this way. But right now, I've reached the quota for how many I can do at a time. And people don't actually argue with that. So I love this idea. Just respond clearly and quickly to people so that they can move on and ask someone else. And if you don't just say you're busy, because everyone's busy and you can't use that. People can argue well. People argue with just saying I'm busy. But you just say this, I have these, this many things right now on my plate. So I wouldn't be able to accept it until maybe next week. Or you find ways to control the process of what work comes to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so doing fewer things is all that's the umbrella of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely like the point that people can get stuck in a vicious cycle where they feel like there's a lot of things, they're not doing everything that they need to, so they kind of add more to their to-do list, to their list of active projects, but then that just creates more overhead, so it makes them get less done. So then they feel even more overwhelmed. So there's kind of some problems with that. I guess, one thing that strikes me is, what he's talking about, it doesn't seem like people have deadlines, or he's not really grappling with that fact as much. So I think some people, just feel like, well, I just have to do these things by this time, or, my boss is going to get mad and I'm going to get fired. So how does that in your mind factor into this thing of do fewer things?
I think doing fewer things means within the limits of your current job. So whatever you can say no to or delay, then you do that. It's just certainly true that in some jobs you don't have the same flexibility. But his experience has been, and I guess this is primarily through people who he communicates with through the feedback he gets from books and maybe workshops, but also from his website, that he has a sense of that he pushes people on this a lot. You have to try to say no, because in fact, everyone does say no when they're at the point of total burnout and unsustainable busyness. So he's saying we have to start being able to say no before that point. So maybe one thing people can do is try to just get used to saying no. Try to get used to having things to the extent that you can. Don't just let everything go immediately onto your plate that now you just work on it, but let the person, maybe there's someone assigning you things to do. Let them know what you're capable of. Let them know what other deadlines you have so that they can make a decision about how important this is. But doing fewer things really, in my mind, comes down to living order, the ideal of order, which does mean prioritizing how many things are truly important and then trying to be narrowing down that number. He says that he talks about having a mission in your professional work and that you can basically have 2 or 3 missions. So his is to write quality books and do quality academic work in his role as a professor at Georgetown. Okay, well so those are 2 main missions that he has. And then he adds on a podcast and there's some other things. So that's maybe 3. Okay, I think that sometimes people have enough flexibility that they can say that right now this is the main thing I'm doing. or these two main things. And then he says, within them, you're going to have projects. And a project he defines, just like we do in Optimal Work, is basically a task that will take more than 1 hour or more than one sitting to be able to do. And he says that you should basically have one of those a day. So try to just have one important thing a day.